experiences. Please join me in welcoming Major Paul Heimbach.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow residents of McClure. Although we've only lived, my wife and I, Donna, have only lived in McClure since 2004, we have some earlier connections with friendships with the Jones family. I see Jim here today. He and his sister Betty were high school friends of mine. When their family attended my father's church down in Chapman Township, Chapman Community Chapel. I was born in New Columbia and raised in Lewisburg, and after my 7th year, my parents moved to Port Trevorton, RD, and Dad took up preaching at that church, like I just mentioned. I went to Selinsgrove High School, and during my senior year at Selinsgrove, we had to all do a research project. And my research project was focused on the aviation industry. And basically that's where my interest in the U.S. Air Force was born, because the Air Force had a new fighter coming on board at that time, the F-104 Starfighter. And it was an exceptionally fast airplane, and of course, you know, the kids, the young men, speed is everything. So after I graduated, I went to Penn State and enrolled in Air Force ROTC, and the day I put on that blue uniform, even though I wasn't in the military, I was hooked. And I still had no idea what I was going to do as a career, but I knew I wanted to do something in the Air Force, and if I got lucky, maybe I'd become a pilot. After 2 years at Penn State, with lack of direction and not really knowing what I wanted to do, I decided to change what I was doing and went to be with my parents, who had moved in the interim to southern Ohio on the Ohio River in a little town called New Boston. And that's where I met the young woman who would become my wife and, like me. Although I had no direction, I started looking for the Air Force because jobs were really hard to come by at that time, and talked my dad into allowing me to join the Air Force. I was only 19, and at that time you had to have parents' permission to join. So he was very reluctant because he thought I was giving up on my education. And I got him convinced by taking him down to the recruiter, and the recruiter convinced him that the Air Force was a great career to pursue and also get an education at the same time. So he reluctantly signed, and away I went to join the Air Force. And now that blue uniform was real. In the course of basic training, I had enlisted for electronics training, but the senior NCO at my first career counseling session said, "Sorry about that, young man. We don't have any more slots open in electronics. How'd you like to be a cook?" Well, I had no problem with being a cook, but I wanted to do something more than cook food, because I was averse to kitchens. And so I took the language aptitude test and passed it. I had had 2 years of Latin in Selinsgrove and a year of French, so I think I was pretty well equipped to take that test, and I did and passed it. And so at the conclusion of my basic training, I was sent to Syracuse University, where I studied Bulgarian for 9 months. After that school of 9 months, where we studied language and local history, Slavic history and Slavic traditions, because I was valedictorian in my class, I got to choose where I wanted to go and to follow on assignment. And my choices were Greece, Cyprus, or Turkey. or Greece, Cyprus, Turkey, or Germany. Since I had a German name and I wanted to learn a little bit about Germany, I chose Germany. And lo and behold, I got to be in a flying outfit there. And for over 3.5 years, I flew as a crewman in a C-130 as a voice intercept processing specialist. Now, what that meant was we patrolled the borders of the Soviet Union and its satellite countries, listening to what they were saying, copying down what they were saying on tape, taking those tapes home, and then transcribing them and sending them on to higher headquarters. We had some pretty interesting experiences in that flying assignment, but I wasn't getting any closer to achieving my goal of an education, so at about the three-quarter point of my tour, I applied for a program called the Airmen's Education and Commissioning Program. Fortunately, I was accepted for that, and I had my choice of San Francisco State, Arizona State, or Michigan State. Well, that was pretty much of an easy choice because my parents lived in Ohio. Michigan State was close to where I wanted to be because my sweetheart was also there in Ohio. And I spent 21 months at Michigan State getting my degree, and then went on to San Antonio, Texas for officer training school. After officer training school, I was sent to the Armed Forces Air Intelligence Training Center in Denver, Colorado, where I had a 9-month course of instruction that taught me how to be an air intelligence officer or a photo interpreter. Both skills were conferred upon the graduation there, and since I had 6.5 years enlisted time, and Air Training Command was having trouble finding officers as replacement to staff who was going to Southeast Asia as that war was cranking up, they invited me to stay on the staff. I accepted that and was there for about 4 months before I got one of those ominous calls from Air Force headquarters saying, well, it's time for you to get ready to go to war. And so they gave me a 4-month notice that I would be going about Christmas time to Vietnam or somewhere in Southeast Asia. It was a pretty hectic time in that I had a wife and 2 young children, and we were no longer allowed to live on base in Denver, so we opted to go back to my wife's hometown area, and I moved her and the boys back to southern Ohio, and off I went in February, actually, to Thailand, which is where my assignment was. I learned that this assignment to Thailand was to a tactical fighter wing, where the fighter wing was employing F-105s. Now I have a model here of an F-105 that you're welcome to come up and take a look at, but it was one of the hottest airplanes at the time, hot when I say speed, because even with bomb loads and external fuel tanks, it was capable of exceeding the speed of sound at low altitude. So that was their actual employment tactic, was to penetrate enemy defenses at low altitude, 5,000 feet or below, and at that altitude there wasn't any other airplane in the world that could catch them. As I left for Thailand, I did a typical thing there in that I went to the aerial port, which is Travis Air Force Base in California, which was basically outside of San Francisco. And I got there real early in the morning after traveling from the afternoon, I think, into the late evening. And something like 2 o'clock, and they said, well, we don't have another flight leaving until late tonight. Well, that was pretty typical of Air Force travel, because they would leave late at night, fly all through the night, and then you'd get to your assigned location the next day sometime. When I had gone to Germany for my first time, it was across the Atlantic, in a propeller-driven airplane in mesh netting, nylon netting seats facing backwards, and that wasn't too comfortable. But at least this trip was on Continental Airlines, the proud bird with the golden tail. I had never flown on Continental before, so I was really excited about that. But my excitement died after we were loaded, because they had stripped all the normal aircraft seats out of it and put in Air Force type seats, which were jammed together to get as many people in that airplane as they could. So it was kind of like an airborne cattle car. Anyhow, we got to, after stops in Honolulu and Saigon, we got to Bangkok in early afternoon, and Don Muang International Airport. And we had the bad news that the shuttle flight to the outlying bases had already left for the day, and we were just going to have to spend the night in Bangkok. So a number of us said, well, this is good news, because we'll get to have a nice meal and have a nice bed overnight. So that's what we did. But we had to listen to this orientation briefing first, given by a sergeant who had given it so many times that he was bored. But the key thing that I remember about that, and I think everybody else was the phrase that you're going to be going into town and around as you travel here the next day on Thai taxis. And you have to understand that if you're in an accident, you got to grab your bags and run like blazes, because passengers are responsible for all damage and accidents. Well, I was fortunate there wasn't an accident in my cab, so I weathered that storm. Next morning, back to Bangkok, Don Muang International Airport, and signed in with the airport, and got my first ride on the Air Force C-130 called the Klong. Now, the Klong in Thailand are waterways, dirty water, stinky water, that are used to convey people and goods to various places. As a matter of fact, in Bangkok, they have an internationally known floating market that's on one of the Klong. And I think one of the Air Force guys named this C-130 the Klong kind of as a joke, because it was a stinky ride that carried people and goods. Anyhow, when I got back to the airport the next morning, onto the Klong, and I was fortunate that Karat, my base of assignment, which was in the center of Thailand, was the first stop. And so I got out off the Klong first. But when the loadmaster opened the cargo doors in the rear, I took a whiff and I said, whew, this is going to take some getting used to. As soon as I got checked in, they sent me down the street to wing operations, and that's where I met my new boss and some of my coworkers. And I spent a few minutes there saying hello and so forth. And the boss said, are you tired? You want to get some rest? And he grabbed one of the other lieutenants who volunteered and sent me on my way to finish my check-in. I did that, checked in to the BOQ office, got my hooch assignment. A hooch is a place where we live. And it was kind of like an oversized stateside gazebo with roofs that jutted out from the side in addition to the main roof. And that was to cover the bands of screening that went all the way around the hooch to allow air in and keep out the mosquitoes and other bugs. When I got to my hooch, I noticed that there were 4 bunks in this building, and one in each corner, along with a little desk and a desk lamp, and a rail behind the bed for hanging your uniforms and civilian clothing. And of the 4 beds, there was only one that had no shoes under it, so I knew that was mine. And in addition to the 4 beds, there was a couple shared overhead fans and a large refrigerator. I checked out the refrigerator and there was fresh pineapple in that baby, and I was impressed. I didn't eat any of it right then, but in coming days I had lots of it.